Hello, welcome. After a few technical hitches, we are up and running tonight. Okay, tonight is our third talk in this series about focusing on each of the major energy centers or chakras. And I'm going to focus on the third center, the solar plexus chakra called Manipura. And I'm just going to share a screen so that you can Okay, so Manipura is yang, masculine. It's very much a fire center. It's our center of power, empowerment. It's our center of willpower. It's very much about autonomy and coming into full self-individualization and self-expression. It's about energy in the body and metabolism. It is, in the modern terms, it's a center, it's associated with technology, it's associated with transformation. And you could think of it as our inner sun. So it's the center where we experience our vitality, our prana, a center very associated with the chi energy. So it's yellow is the color associated with Manipura, and we have a 10-petaled lotus. And within this lotus, we have the downward pointing arrow, because this is a center that is still very much one of the lower chakras. It's below the heart, and it's associated with being grounded in the material world. It often has a symbol in the middle here. Different diagrams will have slightly different, and it often has a picture of a swastika, which originally is associated a symbol of fire. Okay, it's not anything to do with the Nazi association. Sometimes it's in the Hindu faith, it's the god of fire who transforms metal ore into beautiful objects. So it's that transformation, that alchemy process goes on in the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is probably the chakra of that and Swadhisthana, the sacral chakra, that people today are working through their issues that come up with the solar plexus. It's open in most of humanity and causing all sorts of chaos for most of humanity as they learn to transmute the energies of the solar plexus up into the higher energies of the heart. So it's about change and movement. It's about transforming yourself into being a person of power and self-will. So it's about being self-regulating. This power is where you acknowledge differences, but you transcend the polarities connected with the second chakra. So remember, in Swadhisthana, the sacral chakra, we had the masculine and the feminine, the yang and the yin, the male and female, those duality, those pairs of opposites. And we're transcending these now to find a new point of balance. So personally, this would mean that we don't let our head rule our heart. We don't let our left logical brain override our right big picture thinking brain. We don't let our personality desires dominate our soul impulses. So there's an increasing contact with that which is higher in us. And this is really the gateway where we talk about the Antakarana, is very much between the solar plexus and the heart. So we're starting to move up into more contact with the higher self and with the soul. At a societal level, this is where we would connect with others, but without the reliance of the tribe. Remember, the root, the base chakra was about your tribe, and then the sacral chakra was about forming partnerships for procreation, for furthering the race. But now we're moving up into individualizing. Okay, so this chakra, the archetypes that are associated with this chakra The spiritual warrior, I love this one. And this is the hero or the heroine who operates instinctively in their interactions with others, but from a position of equality. Okay, so they've stepped into their self-power. By meeting constant rejection or conflict, the spiritual warriors were forced to look inside themselves to make sense of those sets of circumstances and give them meaning. And spiritual growth and development comes about through facing life's obstacles. But this is where we start to act with integrity in the center, no matter how unpopular that is or how inexplainable that is to others. Okay, so this is really starting to act from an increasing contact with the soul and invoking that will. This is where the will energy comes in. And it might be if the masses are going that way, but your contact with your higher self says, no, this way's right for me. This is the center that would give us that spiritual impetus, that warrior energy to take the path that is right for us. Now we have the negative archetype where someone is not stepping into this. So the drudge is not as dysfunctional as the victim or the martyr, which were the two negative archetypes of the previous two chakras. But it does continue the theme of lack of acknowledgement and reward. So they're continually looking to others for recognition and approval. Okay, they haven't stepped into their self-autonomy yet. They hand over responsibility for their happiness by their submissiveness or their dependence on others. They regard being lovable in terms of what they do rather than who they are. So still very defined by what they do. Often, this is where we start to get they're often involved with very bullying or controlling partners or relationships. So we start getting the codependency, the narcissistic, the controlling. This is what I say, this is the real cauldron in mankind when it comes to relationships, the solar plexus. And often we will draw into, our soul will present partners and family members and close people in our life that will draw out those issues that need to be healed and transmuted and moved through and beyond from the solar plexus. And this is very much because of the way this center works with energy. This is the center where we start to exchange energy with other people. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute in terms of power. So if this center is too open, if it's taking in too much, a person can be very angry. This is the center we associate with anger. The person can be very controlling, tend to be a workaholic, judgmental, and have a feeling of being superior to others. So you can probably get a picture of that that personality type. If it's blocked, there's an over concern with what other people think. There's a real fear of being alone and a real insecurity. So that person hasn't stepped into realizing their self or starting to realize their self. So when it is balanced, there's a respect for self and for others. And increasingly people will step into their personal power. And because of the fire energy and the will energy combined in that sunshine, there's spontaneity and there's vitality and there's zest for life, and there's that real get up and go. When this center is balanced, a person will appear younger than their years, and they may still be a certain age in terms of their body, but their essential being will be young and vibrant. So we tend to see problems physically because it's the solar plexus. It tends to upset the liver. Tends to be the liver and the stomach, the gallbladder and the pancreas, which are all in that area that are affected. And so physical dysfunctions of the stomach can be related to something you can't stomach, related to your power. Maybe someone has power over you. Maybe there's a situation you can't do anything about. And also to do with the stomach, we get a lot of problems with fatigue, with weight gain, especially around the middle, with allergies, and with diabetes. So this is, in terms, our sort of Western society's propensity to be more and more overweight is actually reflecting what's going on in terms of the solar plexus. The addiction and craving to sugar, this sort of thing, can be related to what's going on in the solar plexus. You don't want to deal with the anger, you don't want to deal with the feelings in there, so you turn to sugar, alcohol, food instead. So all of these type of issues tend to be solar plexus. So emotionally, when we're dysfunctioning in this Manipura, there's a need to be in control. There's really a real someone who just can't surrender to the moment and can't just go with the flow, has real problems with that. An oversensitivity to criticism, because they haven't got that strong sense of their own power, their own self. They tend to be battered around by criticism rather than taking it constructively and thinking, actually, yeah, that's true. I can do something about that. Or no, that's not true. So it's about having that autonomy with self. It's where we get the addictive personality. Aggression is that build-up of anger and low self-esteem. From my studies in the deeper aspects of yoga, we would say that the solar plexus is where people store unresolved or unexpressed anger, especially, and that if that goes on for a long period of time, this energy really gets stuck in this part of our body. It can be related to fear, which is right through around the kidneys, so it's all through this middle section of the body. But this build-up of anger eventually will stop the flow of the subtle energy in the person, and we start to get symptoms of depression. And so much of the yoga we would do, for example, with that would be yoga that's releasing and sending energy through the Manipura chakra, opening the heart up into the heart to encourage that shift. So this is where we get a lot of inertia. People get stuck with this chakra. This is the one where if I'm working with people one-to-one, they will have dealt with all they can deal with, and they'll come and see me when there's that final, I don't know how to deal with this one, I can't move through. And they'll often say to me, something is stuck. I feel like something is sitting right up under my ribs, and sometimes you can physically feel that something is stuck. And then when you get to the root cause of that, and there's some tears or there's an emotional release, there is actually a physical release as well. The person can feel, oh, I can relax, I can breathe properly, their diaphragm can work properly. So this is about overcoming inertia and creating change. It's about movement. So fire energy is that spark that ignites the will to action. Okay, so it's talked about, it's the fire between Shiva and Shakti, the power that lies between any polarity. Okay, so the fire is a yang energy, I said, it's a masculine and active radiant energy. But when we are feeling very afraid and powerless, we withdraw and we become very passive, and this is yin. We control our movements and often maybe try and control others. This is when that fire energy is not getting its full expression. Okay, it's like a central heating boiler where the pilot light has gone out. Okay, so we block our own power and expression, become withdrawn, and appear cold and controlling or controlled. But this control, this holding on to this fire, this not expressing, or sometimes people just don't know how how express anger in a healthy way. We're not taught. We're taught either we had parents who didn't express anger in a healthy way, and we're very fearful of conflict and anger and will do anything to avoid it, or we just don't know how to express it. We're not taught in our society how to let this energy flow appropriately, and so we squash it down, and we just keep squashing it down, and eventually it requires enormous amounts of energy to keep it squashed down. I know if you've ever had a series of events where you're getting more and more frustrated, and you know there's anger building up, or maybe someone is continually doing something that is annoying you, and you'll put up with it, and you'll put up with it, and you'll say nothing, and you'll say nothing, and then one day, boom, they'll do it, and you just explode with a reaction that's totally over the top, and they sort of like, whoa, where did that come from? And what it is you were suppressing, and you just couldn't fit any more anger in, and it had to come out. And unfortunately, when it comes out, it doesn't tend to come out in a positive or a constructive or a healthy way. So it tends to damp down our enthusiasm, and because blocking and pushing this anger down just damps our fire, our passion, our zest. It damps everything down. But the thing that rekindles the fire, and I'm going to talk about this more in the next session, is when we open the heart. Okay, so learning to love. So first of all, learning to love and accept ourselves, to accept those issues that we have, those angers, those conflicts that we need to heal from the past, and be willing to go there, to have the courage. And when we open our heart, there's that lion-hearted courage to go there where we haven't wanted to go, and to go where the healing requires, where our soul directs us to heal. So this learning, when the fire is there, we learn to empower rather than have power over people. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit, because this is like our sunshine. This is our inner sun. It's where our center of chi or prana or life force energy. And we reach out to the things we desire, or the things we want to connect with this energy, with our will. And this energy, we have an interchange at the solar plexus with other people. Okay, so sometimes their energy comes in, or ours goes out, and we're continually connecting energetically through this center. And this, because it's linked to the heart, and it's linked to this flow of emotion. And so when this center is healthy and a person is comfortable in themselves, they have established a certain amount of self-love and self-acceptance, and they can stand in their power. They are self-empowered. And they will have, as the energy moves up into the heart, they will have a natural propensity to want to empower other people, because it doesn't diminish who they are. There's no threat to who they are. They want to empower and light that spark, that will in others. And so we see this when someone's solar plexus chakra is healthy. They are often quite inspiring and motivational, and they seek the best for others. When it's not so good, when it's not functioning well, and they might appear to be very confident, but really underneath there's a real self-esteem issue, or there's a real lack of self-love. This center will be used to have power over another. And this is the belief that for me to feel powerful, I have to put you down. So for me to feel good, I have to put other people down. And it takes the personality and the ego a little, the ego grabs hold of this. And unfortunately, this is the way our society often works. We feel like we have to step on other people to get into a position of power. I won't go into the relationship between money, energy, and power, but it's there. And this, when someone has power over you, they suck the life force out of your solar plexus. And you'll know this is happening if you've ever been in the presence of someone and you were clear about what you were going to say, and you were clear about what you wanted, and you were very clear, and you were feeling confident. And then within a few minutes, you're feeling confused, you're doubting what you were going to say, you're starting to feel really tired, and you've lost your power, you've just wilted. That is the feeling, that what's happening there is somebody is working from this power over. So rather than empowering you because they have a healthy Manipura, a healthy relationship with their own power, they are disempowering you. And there are methods, that people can be taught in counseling and in therapeutic situations with how to not let that happen. Okay, how to stay in your own power. And it's very much to do with energy and to do with keeping your will strong, keeping it clear, keeping that fire burning. So this, to empower, is to connect with all. To have power over is separative. It's separating you from the whole. And so it's a negative aspect of Manipura. So the will energy is the means by which we overcome the inertia of the lower chakras and have that impetus to start to move up into the higher centers, into the centers, the heart, solar plexus, and Karana starts to open, and we start to have increasing contact with our higher self and our soul. So this tends to mean that as that happens, we get someone whose self-esteem is high, they're confident, they can be assertive but don't need to be aggressive, they can be proactive rather than reactive, they can be self-disciplined. And basically it gives you an enthusiasm, and you see life as exciting. So when the solar plexus chakra is really had a clear out and it's starting to shine, you wake up in the morning ready to go. And this people who've worked quite hard on some of the issues that are dampened down, or some of the karma that's come through the solar plexus, because the solar plexus chakra is related to karma that goes back to Atlantean times, and many people are working through karma and issues that are not just of this time. This is the center where it will come through. This center it's associated with the emotions, with the expression of the emotions, with your digestion, with your physical metabolism, and your fire energy in that way. It's also linked to the eyes. So sometimes problems with the eyes, because the eyes direct our will. Okay, so if our will energy comes from Manipura, it's our eyes that focus on those desires, on those higher aspirations, on our needs, that sort of thing. So that, I'll cover this a bit more next time, but just to give you an example of the difference between emotions felt from a solar plexus level and emotions felt from a heart level. So for example, pity is an emotion that we would call a solar plexus Manipura emotion. With pity, if someone's fallen into the pit, we jump down in the pit with them. Okay, we're not already used to them, but we're there with them, and we've now got two people in that emotional state. If we can lift pity up into compassion, where we bring this slight detachment that a connection with the heart and the head brings, instead of jumping into that pit with a person, we would stand on the edge and we would talk to them and encourage them, and we would throw a rope down and help to pull them them up. Okay, because we've not jumped down into the emotion with them, we are actually useful. We can help. And so sometimes when we're pulled into mass pity, and I look back to when Lady Diana died, there was mass, people with solar plexus level drawn into mass pity, and people were sobbing with emotion, that they were feeling this collective emotion. But really what we needed to do for her soul, because that energy will hold her soul here longer than need be, we needed to lift up into the heart and look at the life that she led, look at what she taught us, look at that soul's path, and lift up out of that suffocating emotion. Because remember, fire can purify or fire can burn. Okay, and this we want that purifying fire of transmutation, of the phoenix rising from the ashes, is very much this chakra. So conditional love of the solar plexus, I will love you if you behave in the way I want you to, or if you love me back. When we move that up into unconditional love of the heart, I will love you anyway. Okay, and I will love all anyway. So you can see the difference. Anger in the solar plexus, to transmute that anger, there has to come up into the heart, and there's a process of acceptance and eventually forgiveness. Okay, and this, I'll probably do a whole talk on forgiveness and on the spiritual teachings on forgiveness, because it is such a deep area, and forgiveness is not always what we think it is. Okay, so that is the solar plexus chakra. I just want to quickly look at the slide that looks at some of the a few aspects here. So we've got the color yellow, personal power, self-will. It's associated with the pancreas, and so sometimes issues to do with blood sugar management are to do with the solar plexus, the digestive system, and the muscles, in that the muscles are supplied. If your metabolism is working very well, your muscles are getting a good fuel supply. They will be working well. The ruling planet Mars and the Sun, the fire, Aries and Leo, both fire signs, very much associated with the solar plexus, lifting up into the higher aspects of both Aries and Leo, and to do with the sight here. And then just some of the crystals and things. Okay, we've got some essential oils, ylang ylang, the vetiver and the bergamot. You've got some crystals, the yellow citrines, quartz, venturing. The ram is often associated, that willpower, okay, that Aries willpower. We've got these we've covered, oversensitivity, very much in terms of our diet, to do with our relationship with carbohydrates. Okay, if you've got a dodgy relationship with carbohydrates, it's a solar plexus, something there going on. And it's in our teenage years, which is when we tend to be developing or growing the roots of our self-esteem and self-confidence, and what's going on in our particular environment at that time can really affect the solar plexus later on. And that's often the place that we look to for the issues that need healing. Okay, so that's quite a lot. It's and there's still so much more, but I'm hoping that's Manipura in a nutshell, and that at least gives you enough to go and search further about this chakra, because it really is for humanity, where humanity is in its evolution as a whole. Sorting the problems of Manipura is probably we're talking globally, sorting anger and conflict. If we could learn to self-regulate and live in societies where anger was managed appropriately and expressed, or people didn't need to get angry because they had the self-assertion to express what they needed to. If we had a world in which there wasn't anger and conflict, you can start to see, how much the energy would flow, and how much better off we would be. So that's enough. I want to move now into our meditation. So let everything that I have talked about go for now. You can ask me questions or we can have a discussion about it after the meditation. So get yourself comfortable, sitting upright but not rigid. So chakras are aligned, your spine is upright, your feet are on the ground. And just before we begin, I want to come into an association together. So I want to bring our energies together as a group, both those who are watching live and those who are watching the recording. And we do this by repeating the affirmation of love that brings us into our heart and into our collective heart. So repeating with me the affirmation of love. So in the center of all love I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. Okay. Now just close your eyes. And I want to begin by grounding our energy. So just imagine that you are sending a connection down either through your feet or through the base of your spine, through the base chakra, right down into the earth. And now I want to come into this moment in time. So just be aware of your body sitting on the chair. Be aware of the clothes on your skin. Turn your awareness to your sense of hearing and just let the sounds come in. And now take that awareness to your breath. So just watching the breath come into your body. Watching the breath as it leaves. Just let the breath start to slow down. And let your body begin to relax. So with each breath, imagine you're taking that breath down a little deeper. And it's opening a channel right through the very center of your body. Creating space. Just keep a gentle focus on the breath. Feel your awareness turning inward. Keep this focus on the breath. And just let the breath take you deep into a quiet place inside. A place of stillness. becomes distracted by thoughts, physical feelings or sounds, as soon as you realize, just come back to the breath, back to the stillness. Continue to focus on the breath and allow thoughts to simply pass through your mind, returning to the breath. When you return with an attitude of loving kindness, no criticism or judgment. It matters not that you are distracted. What matters is that you came back to the breath. I want you to bring your focus to the center of your chest and into your heart center. I want you to breathe into your heart center, filling it with light and love and a feeling of gratitude for all the blessings in your life, opening the heart. As the heart opens, it becomes a gateway to the intuitive wisdom of your soul, your higher self. Continue to fill the space in the center of your chest with light, with love, allowing feelings of gratitude to grow and bloom. And now I want you to imagine that either white, violet, purple or gold light is emanating from your higher self and pouring down through the crown of your head and down through all of the major chakras or energy centers in your body associated with your spine, bringing them into beautiful alignment. Now imagine your heart as a vessel to receive and distribute this light throughout your physical body. And just imagine your whole body filling with this purifying, cleansing, healing light. Strengthening your body, your immune system, calming and healing your emotional nature, bringing peace and clarity to your mind. Let this light flow out now into your etheric energy body, or the aura that surrounds and penetrates your physical body. So that you are filling with light in all aspects of your being. Now imagine this light flowing out into your home. This lighted love flowing out to all that you live with, all living creatures, people, plants, animals that share your home with you. Now imagine it flowing out into your street, your neighborhood. And flowing out to touch the hearts and minds of your whole community. Now continue to radiate this lighted love and let it flow out to fill the town or the city in which you live. Imagine that it is connecting with the light from all the members of this group meditation. So that together we fill this whole nation, this whole country, with this energy of light and love and the will to good. Continue to let it radiate out to fill this part of the world. Flow into Europe to fill the whole the northern hemisphere. And then to fill the southern hemisphere as well. So that this light now encompasses the whole world. And this light joins with all of those groups who are working in meditation in this way throughout the planet. And those that are working beyond our planet. Now imagine you can see our planet from space, surrounded by this light. See it healing her and restoring the balance in nature, so that our air and our waters are pure and clean. There is a healthy ozone layer and our planet is healing. See all the animal and plant life flourishing. And mankind stepping into right relations with the animal, the plant and the mineral kingdom. Now see this light flowing into the hearts and minds of all of mankind, consciously or unconsciously. Igniting the desire and the aspiration for peace, for goodwill, and right relations between individuals, between families and communities, nations, between our whole human families. see it igniting right relations within each individual, lifting them up to feel the touch of their soul, lifting the awareness and the collective consciousness of all, so that we can envision and learn to live in peace and harmony with all. Visualize these energies unifying and eliminating all divisions within humanity, healing and transforming human consciousness, and establishing right human relations. Continue to hold a space in your heart and let this energy radiate out. Feel the power when we come together with like minds and true intent of heart. And that fiery will from the Manipura solar plexus chakra and orb. Continue to hold a space. Work with your group brothers and sisters in this way. And now I invite you to gently open your eyes and we will repeat the great invocation or the world prayer together. Pausing between each stanza to envisage the words playing out. So join with me. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God. Let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Now very gently draw your energy back into your own energy field. Just come back into an awareness of your body sitting in the chair. Just slowly start to move, just opening your eyes, waking up as you're ready. Namaste. Thank you. And now we come to the time where I invite discussion or questions, comments. You can unmute yourself, so if you want to contribute, just let me know. Or if you don't want to be on the video, you can always pose a question or comment in the chat, and I can read that out. That's no problem. You can probably, just as you collect yourself, you're looking a bit stunned, you can probably see that this pandemic, this time that we find ourselves in, is really, it's like drumsticks on the Manipura chakra, both individually, forcing us to address issues with our own self, to do with power and will, to do with conflict, to do with stepping into our own self-actualization, our own self-regulation. You can see that there's conflict between within families. People have been put together to sort themselves out, to sort out some karma. But there's also collectively, we have the issues of control and power, our relations between nations, relations between communities, differences of opinion as to how things should be managed, differences. Some people are deciding, well, that might be the rules, but this is what I'm doing. Some people are just blindly following the path of least resistance. So you can see that this pandemic is, I believe, really getting in there and stirring up the issues in the solar plexus of individuals and our collective solar plexus, Manipura chakra as a human family. And hopefully there is healing, certainly with the issues of power we are seeing played out at the moment. If we can step up into the heart, and we'll talk about this a bit more next time, but sometimes when we come into our true heart, there is a capacity for being detached, not being pulled into the emotionality and the mass hysteria kind of solar plexus energy, and making a decision that's connected to your higher self, making coming to your own conclusions based on research, but also your intuitive feeling wisdom about what is right for you, what is right for mankind. And the beauty of this whole thing is it's sparking much discussion, much contemplation of bigger issues. You know, we saw our planet heal incredibly in 3 months of changing the way we live. We didn't think that could happen. That's got to give us food for thought. It's got to spark our individual responsibility. So it's not someone else's problem. It's not everybody else's problem. It is our problem as a collective. And we can make individual decisions and decide with our will which way we're going on the way we're going to live our life as a result of this time. So I think it's a powerful time, and we're not out of it yet at all. Okay. So I just wanted to bring the kind of focus of the talk a little bit into what's actually happening at the moment. So does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to add? Yeah, Michael, go.
Thanks for that, Teresa. Very, very interesting. And as you kind of go on to describe it, it makes me think that this chakra is almost like where the theatre of war is, that the whole entire world is going through at the moment. And there's the kind of battle between maturity and childishness and polarization, like we see in America. And it seems to be a battle for balance, even though we don't really know where the future is going. It's about kind of maturity, adulthood, compassion, and not to be swayed too much in the breeze. So
I
think
think
my
that,
overwhelming impression is
yeah,
it's kind of a move towards balance despite all the unbalancing things around us.
definitely. And it's that polarity of the sacral chakra coming to a fulcrum. And at the fulcrum, you know, you need the scales to be balanced. Um, the other beauty of it's also Manipura, in association with the heart, rules the middle path. Okay, the Buddhist middle path, the finding that razor sharp edge between the poles of opposites.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I'm a Libra personality, so these words to do with balance and finding that middle path resonate with me. And when we become the master of Manipura, we are at that point of balance. That's right. Now we might be able to manage that individually. Collectively, we've got a way to go. But we can do that. We can do it.
I think it's also a kind of a sense of mental independence,
Yes.
which is good for societies and good for the world as a whole.
Yes. Yes. When there is no self-will, the energies, the lower, more dense vibrational energies of the mass, emotional, reactive, fear-based, anger-based reaction to events in the world tends to pull people in. And it's at their solar plexus that people are vulnerable to being pulled in. You'll know if you've ever been in a crowd and you want to go the other way to the crowd, whether mentally or physically. If you've been at a concert or something and you wind up going the opposite way to everybody else, how hard that is to resist the energy of the mass. But in mastery of Manipura, we are asked to step into that. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Has anybody else got any question? No comment? Oh, then again, yes. please. You unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa. I was just thinking, I identify very closely with spiritual warrior. It's actually what my name means. If you translate it out of Gaelic, that's what comes up.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, do you think it's possible that if in a sort of karmic situation, you've had to deal with a heck of a lot of external negative energy for a long, long period of time, you can end up physically damaged as a consequence of it?
Definitely, definitely. And I think that, you know, the areas, especially our gut, our digestive system is so vulnerable to outside. I mean, I don't know. I know for me, as soon as I'm feeling threatened or stressed, my stomach goes into a knot. You know, it's and a lot of people's gut problems are not just what's going on for them individually. It's often when they've been in that negative energy situation. And unfortunately, you know, now we know that, you know, 80% of our immune system is produced in the gut. We know that a lot of our neurotransmitters that affect the mood in our brain are produced in the gut. We know the gut has its own neural tissue and its own intelligence. So yes, definitely. And I think sometimes this is karmic. You know, we may have grown up in a situation and we have certain physical ailments that just keep us. It sounds an awful thing to say, but physical ailments and pains and challenges physically keep us on the ball. They don't let us drop into inertia. They keep us moving forward and moving through things. And this is the movement energy required in Manipura. So, you know, if the pain stops and the condition goes away, it's natural to just sort of sit back and, oh yeah, everything's fine. Whereas if it's still there, you're still moving and healing and looking to understand and to find a solution and to find a balance and an equilibrium. You know, if your body's in perfect homeostasis and balance, there's no mess. You know, the body feels completely messageless. Okay, pain and discomfort and these conditions are messages, and they, you know, I'm not saying that if you have diabetes, it's always caused by problems in the Manipura, but the root cause, an esoteric healing, a book written by Alice Bailey, she, by the Master Dwell Cool, she suggests that 90% of all dis-ease in the body has at root cause an emotional element, an emotional causational element. It might not be personal to you, it might be your environment, it might be karmic, it might be previous lives, it could be karmic on a global, it could be a cosmic level. It's interesting, I read a book, been listening to a book this week that is challenging my perspective on things. And it's a book called The Keepers of the Garden. And a lady who's a hypnotherapist takes a young man back for regression therapy to go back into his past lives. And the first couple of times he just goes back into normal past lives. And then he throws her, because he goes back to a life on a planet near the Sirius constellation, and becomes a character or a being from that time, and starts to describe this highly evolved civilization and how they work and how they use energy and crystals to power. They tap into the natural energies in the universe to power everything. They're all telepathic. They have no governments and police force because they're all completely self-regulating. They live in peace. Describes, and then very goes into various incarnations on different planets, and one of these incarnations, one of the beings on this planet says basically that Earth has been isolated down in the bottom of the galaxy, and the other living beings are not having anything to do with our planet because we have this disease that is contagious that they don't want to catch called fear. And it's not until we deal with that that we will then start to lift to a vibration so that we can be aware, because many of these planets, they weren't three-dimensional, they were four-dimensional. They were working on a fourth dimension, or the beings weren't physical in nature. They were.
What was the name of the book again, Teresa?
It was called The Keepers of the Garden by Dolores Cannon, and she is, she's confused. She's quite bemused by some of the things he was saying, but I found it, from my understanding, I could bring in my other understandings, and she talks a lot about something, I won't go into too much detail here, but something called imprinting, where the soul can choose an imprint of a past life from the Akashic records that you may not have actually lived, but that life has very useful healing and knowledge for you, so you can experience it as if it was one of your past lives. You didn't actually live it, but you experience the imprint that becomes part of your soul development. And this explains why so many people can experience the same past life sometimes. So there's all sorts. I'm not even all the way through. And this woman who has sort of just come across this, a lot of it is beyond her understanding. So she's just bringing, this young man is bringing this information through. And I have found it very valuable to challenge my very paradigm. And I love the idea that we're not on our own here. There's lots of beings far more advanced than us who are watching how we're going. And they're coming down to help us, and they're incarnating in human bodies to help us. And I like that idea. So there's something, that's really
Okay.
opening.
Thank you.
Mine. Yeah. Lovely. Now I had a comment from Fiona. So Fiona says, I can identify with that. I'm certain my thyroid illness was directly related to the stress and emotional challenges I've been experiencing. I have to manage this now. I can feel my gut lump when I'm getting stressed. Yes, definitely. And it's a whole new area of health awareness, is looking at why particular parts of your body are in dis-ease. Why is it my gut, not my arm? What does that mean? What is part of a soul development, looking at illness from a deeper perspective? But we can do a whole nother talk on that if you like. Okay.
It'll be fun sometime. Yeah.
Oh, there's endless, lots of things, and it keeps me on my toes. Okay. Right, well, thank you very much. That's been a lovely session. Thank you for your energy. And thank you for those watching the recording as well. And I'll say good night and God bless. Namaste.